एतादृशेन केवलं वचसा यथा अस्माकं प्रकृतेः रक्षणं कर्तव्यम् इत्यादिकं यथा न स्यात्, यथा वस्तुतः क्रियायां तस्य अध्यवसायो भवेत् तथा करणार्थम् इयं दृष्टिः अस्माभिराधातव्या मनसि, तादृशं मार्गं जीवनमार्गं वेदः प्रदर्शयति इति एतावदुक्त्वा यथामति संगृहीतम् इमं प्रबन्धम् उपसंहरामि।
Kalidas, if any questions are there, I can Madam Rosen's views on this subject. Dr. Bhagirath speakers.
Yes. Honorable Director and the scholars in this August Assembly. First, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to render my services towards this renowned institute. Before I start, I am instructed to submit the gist of the lecture which you have heard previously. He has considered the entire Shukla, the entire Krishna Yajurveda, Samhita, Brahmana and Aranyaka and also Upanishad. And he has given all his observations about 5 elements: flora, fauna, animal kingdom, so long, etc., etc. And the important point he was stressing of Manushasya Prakrutya Samanjasyam, the harmony between human being and the surrounding. And because of this, and how he arrived at this conclusion that there was harmony between human being and the surrounding, and for that he mentioned all these, he has given all these references from the Samhita. The important point, or what we call the sutra of his lecture is Atmanaha Pratikulani na Paresham Samachari. One should not behave otherwise with the others that which is harmful to one. And others, Atmanaha, others, means if one is being as a Chaitanya, living being or consciousness, then others are also as conscious as one is. And so, Pratikulani na Samachara, should not do any harmful thing to others. This is the sutra or the key concept of his lecture. Now I will turn to my lecture. Ecological and environmental awareness in the ancient India is the theme of this seminar. We are aware of the thing that is different and separate from us. And we are not aware of our blood circulation and thousands of cells in our body. It is because we live with them. They are an integral part of our life. The serious disturbance in them only makes us aware of them. Now we have become aware of ecology and environment because the deterioration, decay, etc. in them started affecting our life. There is a great threat not only to the mankind but to the planet. So we have turned to the Vedas to find out any solution for this disaster. Then why we have turned to Vedas when there are scientists? It is the hermeneutical process that when a sensitive reader reads a classic, he reads, understands and interprets it on the background of his contemporary situation, most of the time contemporary problems. It is quite natural process that he interprets it in such a way that he could draw a message from the text. This message is directly related to his life. Most of the times, the message drawn from the text provides a solution to the contemporary problem. This is the basic law of the hermeneutics, and this broadly reveals why totally different types of messages were drawn from the Vedas at different times by different thinkers then. These messages were the solutions to the contemporary problem. It will not be out of context to see the process, this hermeneutical process, because we are now trying to find out any solution from the Vedas. This will not be out of context to see this hermeneutical process historically in Greek. The Mimamsaka's interpretation of the Vedas, that the import of the Vedas is karma or yajna, was a strong antidote to the powerful and wide propagation of Shramana Dharma, the 3rd century BC. Shankaracharya's interpretation of Veda was in terms of jnana, and which proved a strong measure to ward off the Tantrikas and Buddhists who were Shunyavadis. It is 5th century after Christ. The Middle Age, that is 11th century onwards, is marked by the rise of the saints in all parts of India who propagated the message of the Vedas as bhakti, and that too in the regional languages. This message of bhakti, that God is everywhere and He is very merciful and takes care of everybody, gave solace to people who have lost confidence due to destructive attacks of Muslim invaders. The late 19th century was the start of the dependence, and it was mistaken as the result of the extreme faith by blind faith and on age-old scriptures, religion and tradition. In this time, Swami Dayananda's new interpretation of the Vedas, that the Vedic seers have scientific approach and the advanced stage of scientific development is seen in the Vedas, enhanced and spread enthusiasm, love and pride for the scriptures, that further strengthened the patriotism that was in fact the need of the time. Just 15 years after that, Pandit Satavalekar's interpretation of the Vedas, preaching strong patriotism in the Vedas, contributed towards kindling the spark in the society. Today's problems are global. Imbalance in ecology, serious decay in environment, conflicts on all levels, no peace, etc., have compelled the thinkers to find out strong solutions for these problems. Such solutions are always in form of thought process or cultivating certain attitude towards the situation, or in form of giving vision which will completely change one's lifestyle. It is because change in mindset would only help in facing the problem. It is very apt to quote the age-old wisdom in the context. The verse is as follows: Nahi deva dandam adaya rakshanti pashupalavat yam tu rakshitum icchanti subuddhya yojayanti tam. The meaning is very clear. It goes without saying that the proper and right thought only would bring one out of the calamity. In all the cases mentioned above, the message drawn from the Vedas only succeeded in giving decisive turn to the society. On this background, we have to see what sort of thought or the vision provided by the Vedic literature which might have prevalent then and which might have not only warded off the calamity, but might have proved as a proactive measure that such calamity won't occur at all. As per the textual record, the ancient people were not aware of ecological environment problems, just as we are not aware of the blood circulation in our body. This clearly means that there was hardly any disturbance or decay in the environment. No disturbance and no problem further implies that the ecology and environment must have been integral part of the human life and not external, separate or fragmented entity, and hence was taken as proper care. My humble thesis in this regard is that the Vedic culture could achieve this because of yajna. I will keep the word yajna as it is. I sincerely maintain that yajna, both as a practice and as a concept, had created, nourished and maintained an awareness not only towards environment and ecology, but towards the entire universe in totality. This was certainly something more than what we talk about. I have divided my presentation into two parts. First part would deal with yajna as a performance, because of which the awareness towards ecology became an innate property. In second part, I have proposed yajna as a worldview or yajna as a vision which develops an awareness towards one's environment. Yajna as a performance, the first part. By yajna as a performance, I mean most developed form of yajna, that is Shrauta yajna, which is described in the Vedas. My observation is that the Shrauta yajna is hardly possible without close relationship with 5 elements. Here we will see some examples. While preparing the fire pits, clay from 7 different places, that is Parthiva Sambharas, is collected and put in the pits. Just have a glance on the 7 Parthiva Sambharas. Sukata, stones, small stones. Ushara, salty land. Then Aku Karisha, earth dug out by rabbit. Suda, earth collected by white ants. Valmika Vapa, Pushkara Parana and Hiranyam. And likewise, there are 6 Vanaspatya Sambharas, the twig or small part of the trees, Ashwatha, Audumbara, Palasha, Shami, and then Ashani Hatavruksha, the tree which is half burned by electricity and Vikankata. Apart from that, there are 29 trees that are identified as Yajna trees, that is beneficial for Yajna, therefore holy and divine. The Yajamana, that is one who undertakes the Agnihotra and one is entitled to perform the Shrauta Yajna, is depending on the entire nature for his Yajna, such as sunrise, sunset, moon, constellations, water reservoirs, etc. That means he lives with Yajna. He draws message from nature, and it can be said that he lives for nature. The Shrauta Agnihotri is the best example of the environmental friendly lifestyle. So I dare to state that the Vedic people didn't need deliberate or conscious attempt towards the awareness of environment. When the Agnihotri finds everything around him yajniya, it goes without saying that he would put special attempts for its preservation as it is. It seems inbuilt mechanism that the nature helps human being to perform his duties and the human being protects it for the cause. This interdependency didn't allow any external element which will motivate him to exploit or overpower it. I sincerely maintain that the environmental and ecological disaster happened due to humans' desire and attempt of exploiting and overpowering the nature. One more feature of the Shrauta Yajna is that the mantras in this ritual are nothing but the dialogue held with the things around him. For example, Ishetva is the mantra for Shakhaharana, bring the twig. As if the priest is appealing the twig that I need you for my food. The famous example is Swadite ma enam hinsiti. Just now we have seen it. O sword, please do not injure the tree. This mantra is recited while lifting up the axe to cut the tree. The axe Swaditi is addressed directly or Oshade Trayasva enam. This mantra is related while putting darbha on the tree before it is cut. Here also the Oshadi is directly addressed. Uru prathasva urute yajnapatihi prathatam. The purodasha is, that is the small lump of flour, is directly addressed or requested to get sprayed. When the Advaryu places the juhu on the prastara, he recites the mantra Bhrutachasi juhu namna sedam priyena dhamna priyam sada asida, etc. He directly talks with the juhu. Agne vratapate vratam charishyami, these are the mantras for Avantar Diksha, where he directly addresses Agni, Surya, Vayu, etc. and says vratam charishyami, etc. Here the objects such as fire, Vayu, sun, wind, sun are directly addressed. Of course, then they remain no more mundane objects, rather they become deeds. This is how the entire Yajna ritual is nothing but a beautiful dialogue between human being and the things around him. Holding the dialogue makes not only aware of the environment but aware of the liveliness of the environment. When it is understood that the entire surrounding is as alive as he is, and he has to carry on the yajna, carrying dialogue with all these things, there is hardly any possibility of disturbing or spoiling the environment. The Vedic seers have realized the quality of the environment, which is very unique thing. These two properties of the environment are Shanti, peace, tranquility, and Chandas, rhythm. I will quote here Shukla Yajurveda mantras. Previously, Shastriji has quoted the mantra from Taitiriya Aranyaka about Shanti. Devhu Shantihi, Antariksham Shantihi, Prithvi Shantihi, Apaha Shantihi, Oshadayaha Shantihi, Vanaspatayaha Shantihi, Vishve Devaha Shantihi, Brahma Shantihi, Sarvam Shantihi, Shantireva Shantihi, Sa Ma Shantirehi. Another mantra from the same Samhita is as follows: Prithvi Chandaha, Antariksham Chandaha, Jauhu Chandaha, Samas Chandaha, Nakshatrani Chandaha, Vak Chandaha, Manas Chandaha, Krishish Chandaha, Hiranyan Chandaha, Gaush Chandaha, Ajas Chandaha, Ashwas Chandaha. To me it means that according to the seer, the environment is basically Shanti and Chandas, that is peace and rhythm. These are the basic qualities of the nature or environment. The seer doesn't say that it is Shanta, that is peaceful. He doesn't say Devhu Shanta or Devhu Chandasi, etc. He says it is Devhu is peace or Devhu is Chandaha. That is, Devhu itself is peace and Devhu itself is rhythm. The Samanadhikaranya relationship in these two objects is very significant. This means earth, sky, water, trees are peace and rhythm, that is peace and rhythm incarnation. These qualities are the nature of the nature and exactly opposite of agitation, chaos, disharmony, etc. When they are described as peace and rhythm, that is natural objects, or the entire nature is described as peace and rhythm, it means there is never any chance for any type of outburst or interruption or eruption. My point is, understanding the nature of the nature is first step towards the preservation of the environment. One more important point is that the seer always connects him with the environment. After describing Jauhu, Shanti, etc., the last part is Sa Ma Shanti Rehi. Let that Shanti enter me. The mantra in the Yajamana Diksha, there is one more mantra in the Yajamana Diksha. This is very significant. He says Prithvi Diksha, Taya Agnir Dikshitaha. Prithvi itself is Diksha. And Yaya Agnir Dikshitaha, Taya Tva Dikshaya. And likewise it goes, Jauhu Diksha, Dishaha Diksha, etc. In this ritual, the Yajamana is interconnecting himself with the environment. It is not that he is different from the environment, but he is an organic part of the environment. This further implies that any mistake committed by him to his misbehavior would not only spoil the environment but also spoil his own life gradually. It goes without saying that such Dikshita Yajman dare not think of exploiting or overpowering the environment. Normally, when we talk about the environment, we talk about the 5 elements, trees, herbs, that is botanical kingdom. Here is the example how Yajna directly contributed towards preservation of the animal kingdom also. Some part we have already seen in the previous lecture. There are many animals and birds are mentioned in the Ashwamedh chapter. I am quoting it from Shukla Yajurveda. Shukla Yajurveda enlists Ekadashin and Ashtadashin Samyak Pashu, that is animals and birds, which are required in the Ashwamedh. The count goes up to 246 approximately. I am quite aware that it is a point of dispute where the animals and the birds were really killed or not. I myself maintain that they might have been collected and set free, that is Upakarana. The ritual is called Upakarana. This is not the place for this discussion. My point is, the Yajna requires these many animals and birds. Thus the entire animal kingdom immediately becomes Yajniya, which further implies that its preservation becomes the duty and responsibility for the sake of Yajna. I would like to summarize the first part of my paper as follows. It is the Yajna Prayog performance, which was the lifestyle then, that automatically created and nourished the awareness towards environment, including 5 elements, botanical and animal kingdom. In the second part, I would like to propose the Yajna as a world view is the solution for today's problem. Yajna in fact is a continuum. Each action is an outcome or result of our previous action, and each action is going to result into subsequent action. This is the continuum, and this I take the meaning of the Yajna. Sangati Karan. This can be called an archetype of any Yajna. Another element of the archetype can be described in terms of integrity. The Yajna Prayog in fact assumes the interconnection among several articles or objects. Yajna also, so the meaning itself is integrity. The meaning of the Yajna itself is integrity. So this is another constituent in the Yajna as a world view. Yajna also stands for gratitude. When I say Yajna as world view, I mean a particular attitude of looking at the environment, the attitude that includes gratitude, integrity, continuum, etc. This attitude certainly would help to dilute the problem. Nowadays, we talk about holistic worldview. The Yajna worldview is far better than this, since it consists of integral approach towards reality, gratitude, extreme sense and awareness of what one is doing, and doing at each and every moment. Nobody lives in isolation in this world, and nothing happens in isolation in this world. This is the core concept of Yajna worldview. This leaves no scope for I and the remaining world, that is, Bhoktru and Bhoktavya, which in fact is the beginning of exploitation and overpowering of the surroundings. In brief, as it was mentioned previously, if we want to come out of the problem, we have to change our mindset or thinking process. Vedas have given us the worldview which will help us to think, to change our mindset. Adopting this Yajna worldview is the solution for today's problem. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your paper on the significance of Vedic sacrifices. Now, I request Dr. Kameshwari to present a sonnet to Professor Bhagilata Pataskar. Signifying the 70th anniversary of our research institute and those publications which have been released during this year. Now, if you have got any questions, you can ask either Dr. Ramana Sharma or Professor Bhagilata Pataskar. The forum is open to you. So if you want, you can introduce yourself. And this is Sri R. Kalidas.
Now, of course, I am the Vice President, Vice President of the Kupsam Satya Research Institute, but now I am seeking some clarification or putting forth my ideas after listening to the two distinguished speakers as a practicing chemical engineer working in industry. It is something which has been the manufacture of chemicals had been under tremendous criticism all over the world, not to mention India alone. The Western countries have emerged with newer and newer technologies, innovative technologies to clean up their systems and the Panchabhutas, if you want to call. It's all happening. But in India, where so much had been talked about what is available in the Vedas, Upanishads, and so many other scriptures, we haven't made a significant progress. So this is something which had prompted me to make this appeal or a request to this younger audience here. They not only have the energy and age with them, but also they have been exposed to what is available in our own scriptures. An institute or a platform like Kupuswami Sastry Research Institute with a vast amount of the manuscripts and guidance from people like Dr. Balasubramaniam, Dr. Vasudeva, Dr. Kameshwari, they're all there. It is up to you to jump in and come up with some solutions. Yes, there are many things that have been done in the past in India by our forefathers. It was all in a different time frame when everybody took a view of ethical way of life. Several times it has been mentioned, harmony, Atmavadeva Paranapi Pashyata. That is how they all looked at and then led the life. And there were no pollution. They did not make any synthetic chemicals at that time, I believe. So there were no pollution to encounter. Today it is different because we want to have a faster life, a happier life, which we think it is happier life. So many chemicals, many new opportunities, avenues, contraptions, everything have been developed, all giving you a high quality product, all right, for the use. But behind, lower below, how much of waste, toxic materials, and affecting the environment had come about. It's not coming very clear and it is not being much publicized. Yes, many well-meaning environmentalists are talking about this, but I think instead of talking about, the young minds should turn to some concrete action. And that is my appeal. Thank you.
Namaskaraha. No, I'll stay here. Professor Ramana Sharma Mahabhagan Adhikritya Prashnam Pruchami. Bhavatam Bhashanam Ativa Dyotakam Asit Tato Kritagnatam Nivedayami. Parantu Atra Vedan Adhikritya Bhavatam Bhashanam Asit. Atra Dharmashastra Vishaye किंचित अपराधम प्रति किंचित वर्ण्यते वा अस्माकं धर्मशास्त्रेषु. So what I mean is your lecture was very informative on the Vedas, sir. Thank you very much. But could you enlighten us on any information from the Dharma Shastras where are any transgressions addressed, where punishments are described regarding environmental? Yes.
And already the keynote speakers had also mentioned it, and I'm sure it will be. Actually, already the Honorable Judge also had also mentioned it, I think, and the previous speakers also spoke it, and we also have an entire session on it. Right now, I do not have all the points at my behest to present in front of you, and anyway, it is formally the duty of somebody else, so I'm sure you will be able to get that.
Madam is also an authority in Dharmashastra. They have contributed so much in the field of Dharmashastra. I request you to be brief in your questions.
So in our education, my name is Bhupal from Madras University. In our education, all the teaching of all the science subjects are based only on Western theories, whether it is botany or zoology or medicine, whatever may be. Generally in our mainstream, based on Western science only, their theories and all. My question is it possible to get the theories of our own theories, Eastern ideas, thoughts and all, and then make a foundation for future education of science subjects, teaching science subjects? This is my question. Are we trying that, or do we follow the same thing again and again, and which may not solve the problems?
Professor Sundararajan is here from Bengaluru. He has spent more than 4 decades teaching various levels of students, especially in the field of botany and life sciences. I think he can give an answer for this. You would like to?
I shall certainly give you an answer for your questions. Kindly hear my lecture tomorrow. That will be a better thing, I think.
It's Ramana Sharma's lecture is excellent. So that is just like Tufan Express. And finally he just ended with a prayer in synchronizing with above the level of Kaliyasa Adanam hi Visargaya Satam Varimuchamiva. You have Adanam is all right. Pradhanam Tatopya Adhikam. Adhikam means you want to be minus or just I want to highlight. When you have Adanam Samata Vartate Chet Tatopya Adhikam Katam Va Pratum Shakyate iti eva me shanka.
मम तु एवं धारणा वर्तते उदाहरणार्थम् एकं लौकिकं दृष्टान्तं वदामि ओके ऐ एम् सारी